Journal. This is our debut edition, and I was looking at the calendar today, and I totally freaked out because in exactly 1 month, submissions open again for the next. It never ends, and that's good. We don't want it to. We started this journal for a couple of reasons. One, primarily because a lot of journals don't pay artists unless they're specifically asked to write for them with open submissions, and to me that's just not right. People that do art should get paid for it. I mean, you're not going to get rich, you're not going to pay your rent, but at least you get some reasonable amount. Hopefully it'll get better someday. But we don't have a lot of time. We've got a lot of readers, we've got a lot of literary genius to share with you tonight. So we're going to start off. Some of the people that submitted to this journal are from faraway places like England and Russia and Canada and South America, and they couldn't be here. So some of our editors and our board members are going to read things that they were submitted that made the journal. So Laura Cottam Sajbel is going to read from a nonfiction piece because she's the nonfiction editor. Let's give her a hand.
It's always good to go first. You don't have to follow anybody really good, right? Thank you for the introduction. I'm Laura Cottam Sajbel, and Jonathan Smulian's not here. Can you not hear?
Yeah.
Jonathan Smulian's not here, am I correct? Because I was going to read his piece, but if he's here, I'm going to give it over to him. This is the one, I chose this because it got the editor's choice. Tony and I immediately snapped to this one. This is a nice little piece called The Diagnosis of Dr. Gupta, and please forgive me if I don't pronounce all the words from India properly, but I'm trying. The monsoon season had finally reached Jamshedpur. That afternoon, torrents of rain had flooded the crowded streets. An Indian engineer colleague and I walked back to our hotel after dinner, dodging both stagnant puddles and hundreds of shift workers from the Tata steel plant, weaving their way home on their bicycles. He wanted to get back to watch the Test cricket on television. I didn't feel well and wanted to go to bed. I thought it might have been the rich lamb curry and pungent chutney. The next morning I felt nauseous with pain in my lower right abdomen, but was determined to participate in the blessing of the planning team's new project office. My Indian associates had hired a part-time priest from the vegetable market to perform the puja. After the priest smeared his forehead with paste, lit the incense burner, squatted in the corner with his bowls of oil, some fruit, and garlands of orange marigolds, he began to chant the blessing. To include me among the blessed, he placed a red dot of colored paste on my forehead. The puja chant droned on for what seemed an eternity. I felt so ill, I had to leave. I'll just go to the hotel and lie down a few hours, I said. Should we call a doctor? The young Indian engineers asked, looking concerned about their aged foreign consultant. Not necessary. I'll be back this afternoon, I replied. An hour later, as I lay on my bed, there was a knock at the door. To my surprise, there appeared my 3 Indian colleagues and a mild-looking, middle-aged man with a large mustache, a long soiled white coat, and a shabby black bag. He was introduced as Dr. Gupta. He didn't seem to speak much English, and without asking for my permission, began to examine me. With a very elongated forefinger, he proceeded to prod my stomach, saying only pain with each prod. Eventually, after prodding and prodding, he found a tender spot, grunted, packed up his stethoscope and bag, and nodded his head from side to side. Gallbladder infection. Better in 3 days. And finally, will happen again in about 6 weeks. He then took out an old blue-lined school exercise book, tore out a page, and with a blunt pencil wrote out the prescription. With another nod of his head, he left my room, and my colleagues rushed off to the local chemist, returning with some powders wrapped in twisted cylinders of old newspaper and a few pills in a crumpled sheet of torn silver paper marked "Made in India." But I didn't pay him for the visit, I said. Don't worry, they replied. We gave him 40 rupees. 400 rupees, $10 US for a hotel visit and examination, I explained. I must pay him a reasonable fee. No, they insisted. That is the normal charge, and he was pleased to get it. After agonizing about the potential consequences, I decided to take Dr. Gupta's mysterious medicines. I felt better immediately, and in 3 days, completely healthy. 10 days later, I flew back to Houston. 5 weeks passed. On Saturday morning, my family and our house pets are in the habit of taking ill only on the weekends. I felt the same nausea and pain as I had had in India and drove to a well-known Houston multi-specialty clinic. The internist who normally acted as our family doctor was absent, and the skeleton staff were on weekend duty. Said a doctor I hadn't seen before, probably appendicitis. You should have a CAT scan. She sent me to an emergency clinic a mile away where I was thoroughly examined again by 2 young doctors who, having done an extensive series of tests and discussed the case at length over a period of hours, thought it might be an appendix problem. They eventually sent me to radiology for a CAT scan, and half an hour later came the verdict: gallbladder infection. Make an immediate appointment with a gastroenterologist. I saw that the bill for the process leading to that Saturday morning's diagnosis, paid later by my health insurance, of course, was $2,450. When I told my internist the story of Dr. Gupta's $10 diagnosis, she said, well, it's sad, with our reliance on high-tech equipment, we might have well lost our ability to diagnose common symptoms. On my next visit to India, I called on Dr. Gupta and presented him with a formal testimonial letter that I had designed and written in Houston, resplendent with red wax, seals, italic script on headed paper, and signed with a flourish, praising him for his outstanding diagnostic skills. My Indian friends tell me that this testimonial, in an elaborate gilt frame with carved elephants entwined in wreaths of lettuce flowers, is hanging in a place of honor on the wall of Dr. Gupta's modest Jamshedpur surgical site.
Thank you. Hope nobody's sick. Next, I met Benjamin Pehr in a poetry group we had at a little restaurant up in North Austin, along with another one of our readers tonight. And he always wrote these happy, cheerful little poems. And tonight, the submission he chose to send us, or that our poetry editor's not here tonight. He lives in San Antonio, so he couldn't make it. Our poetry editor chose this particular one. It's a little dark. I think you may read something else in addition to kind of let it sink in. Benjamin Pehr, please, welcome.
Well, I brought something extra because you indicated, but you tell me how much time, if it's 2 or 3 minutes.
This is a short one if you have your book. It's on page 17. And actually, this is about as humorous as I get. It's entitled, that's true, The River. Bodies in the river. Ferret floating on its side, moccasin on driftwood, black cattle corpse, dead bird, and little Billy Jones, drowned in the swift current, his parents still looking, all flowing to the sea, where fish will feed on their flesh and algae grow on their bones. And I know it seems dark because it's meant to give you this kind of a shock, but actually it's like objectively in nature, it's all the same. So we won't go into literary discussion. I'll try and come up with something funny in a minute. But first, here's something in a way kind of darker too. It will use these classical musical terms from Italian that doesn't really matter if you know the meaning of them, except for the title, which is sotto voce. And sotto voce is music which is played at a very low volume, kind of like barely audible, like a whisper. So, this poem is entitled Sotto Voce. Do you hear the music? You, the classical musician. Do not turn a deaf ear. It is the music of my love for you alone. It is not a piano solo. It is not a chamber quartet. It is a magnificent symphony, composed by my heart of themes within my soul. Turn your good ear this way. Do you hear it now? The notes are my thoughts, the tones are my emotions, the melodies are my missives, musings, the myriad musical messages in the nights. The movements are our times together, the meetings at cafes, at restaurants, the walks outdoors in parks, the talks indoors at your table. My joy is violins. Do you hear them? My compassion is cellos. Do you hear them? My melancholy bassoons. Can you hear them? Your graceful smiles sound adagio. Excitement to hold you, allegro. Exhilaration of kisses, scherzo. The one for closeness, to merge with you, to join with you as music, fugue. Now do you hear it? Listen. I burn for you in crescendo. I depart diminuendo. Listen, hear. It is beautiful, this symphony of love for you. The passion is played forte, the tenderness pianissimo, the loneliness sotto voce. Thank you. So I'll just do this one, and later if you need something more funny, I'll come up with the comedy stuff. This one is entitled Road Construction, Pecos County, Texas, 1981. Sunshine, a wide blue sky, an acrid smell of tar. The construction gang lays asphalt for highway. Oblivious invaders manufacture a solitary, desolate boulevard. Upon a high ridge of white rock outcropping, a cowboy inside a wide-brimmed hat watches the progress of concrete across the plain, entombing relics of Spanish explorers, paving over the last tracks of stagecoaches, over fading trails of expelled Apaches, through ghost encampments of Comanche raiders. Buzzards glide on heat streams above machines. Silent parched hills of pale browns and sparse green shrubs flank the bulldozers, cement mixers, and pavers. From under the shade of the Stetson, he surveys where ancient paths led to the secluded waterhole, known to thirsting cavalry troopers and resting braves, when man belonged to the land and its ways. As the setting sun splays colors upon the clouds, he turns and descends behind the ridge, boots kicking dust down to the pebbled road where sits his Chevy pickup truck. There's just enough time to buy a six-pack of Schlitz beer, pop a Swanson frozen dinner into the microwave, then watch Mork and Mindy on TV. Thank you.
Appreciate it. I'm going to read the bio of the next reader because the bio is almost as good as any of the work. It's amazing. Here we go. Elijah Alred is a 26-year-old University of Texas graduate living in Austin, Texas. He currently works for a major social media site, memorializing accounts of users who have passed away. Previously, Elijah lived in the desert and worked in the front desk of a motel. Elijah has no children. Elijah is normal.
What's up, y'all? Hey. I am completely normal, in case you were worried. So I'm not going to tell you why I wrote this, because that's lame, but when I came back to Austin, I was a little bit crazy from living in the desert for a while, so I started putting up ads on like Craigslist and like around town that were like, hey, I'll write a poem for you for free, just make me write one, because I wanted to write more. So this is the first time I've ever been published or anything like that, which is exciting, it's fun. This is from someone on Craigslist asked for this, and then they never returned, like, they didn't say anything afterwards. So I'm glad somebody liked it. Ben, long fingernails digging into the fiber of that rope. Far off, a shock of wild roses burns on the open grassland, the heat lightning having called their interdicted name. You are that you are. You may have even been there, gripping that knotted lariat to heaven, longest hair of God reeling like line from break in the great rib cage of overcast sky. Wasn't it a strange way down? Loneliness, too, is a kind of escape. Beneath the thunderhead, something bends but doesn't break. The grassland is heaving now, a sea of broken legs trying to waltz. Your tea is getting cold on the stone bench in your garden. Your roses have a few short months before the summer comes. Honey leaks out from beneath the closed door of the mausoleum. It almost rains for you. There's that one. So additionally, I'm just going to plug this thing that I've been doing for 2 years. This is called the Book of Dog. And you probably will see like free copies around Austin at some point. I'm going to be distributing it. If you have any interest in it after I read from it, it's a story. It's about a monster and a giant and a couple of ghosts. But I'm going to read a quick couple from it. Know this, when the roads begin to gather, it will be an unanimal 500 years in the making, no older. There was Christopher, though, who left Spain on a monster hunting expedition, scouring the foggy horizon for the tall and dog-headed other, unaware of the thing that he kept in the cargo hold. A wet and bloody yoke he wrapped around himself was as ghoulish as anything, a thing that slithered into temples, built walls like skin, flayed the hallows for their glitter, and filled the roads with ink, a thing he prayed to. A special ink cut from bodies like nauseant souvenirs, the hue of myth presented as fact. See the specter of erasure. See the specter that surrounds itself with dogs taking table scraps with loyal eyes and ruthless teeth. Small note on the dog whose body is a cage built by time and human history. The dog whose name is the star-scraped temple on the mountain of ash. The dog whose body is a navigation star. The dog who will tear the slave hunter from its gums. The dog who will rip the Birmingham police from its teeth. The dog who will stalk the rusty prison gates and our bad intentions. Black dog, Baskerville, Barghest, bad omen until we choke on the fog of our concrete's ugly reckoning and what's left can be scavenged or howled down dead as the moon.